What's up, guys? Welcome to the Madison podcast. I am your host today, New York's favorite British mortgage broker, Ben Lavender. Have a very special guest I would consider not just a colleague, but a friend in the business that I've known for a very long time, Miss Danielle Efres.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben. It's a pleasure to be on here. I've seen your work, and I said, you know what? I'm waiting for my invitation for this podcast.
You like smack me on my own post, and you're like, Ben, where's my invite? I'm like, I didn't know you did podcasts and stuff.
Right? How rude. I'm like, I don't get an invite to this spectacular podcast.
You are on. We are spectacular. Thank you for saying that. We greatly appreciate that. We like to think we are. But to have you back that up or back us up with that, it's quite a compliment. So thank you.
No, absolutely.
So Danielle, for our audience, tell them, I just gave you an intro, but give a little intro of your own, please. Like how long you've been in the business, who you're working with, and what's like your overall approach to the business, you would say. This way everyone can get to know you.
Okay, so I've been with Keller Williams for going on about 4 or 5 years now. I'm thrilled with the company. You know, as we were talking about some time, like it's very hard to find a company that has the same morals as you, really wants to help the clients and really want to change the industry in a whole. So, you know, I had worked for a small brokerage before that, and when I had came to Keller Williams, my business just completely changed and expanded to, you know, something that I'm really proud of that I've built over the last few years. And, you know, I find one thing, I really run my business on integrity. My clients know that they're not just a dollar sign, they're not just a client, they're actually my family. They're my extended family. You know, and people that I highly regard, and they come to me for all different, you know, sorts of things, not just real estate, asking questions. We go over family things, and I find that that's been a way for me to kind of separate myself from the million other real estate agents that are out there.
Yeah, so let's jump into what you mentioned in the very beginning there, which is like integrity and ethics, which I find is quite rare.
Unfortunately, it's very rare.
Especially in the New York market, right? I do quite a bit of business out of state as well, and it tends to be much more clean, I guess is the way to put it. But because you do the majority of your businesses where the Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx.
So I do Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Westchester, you know, and different. So Keller Williams, we have offices all over the place. So even though I'm not licensed in Connecticut, if I have a client looking to move there, I'll partner with a friend of mine who's at the branch over there. So it's a lot of running around for me because I do cover a lot of different areas. But yeah, primarily I do more so here, Queens, like Brooklyn, Bronx, right, Westchester.
The reason why I highlight those areas is because I feel like those areas are known for a sharky atmosphere, right?
Very.
Right, everyone just does what they have to do. So, like, what kind of like things have you come across? I mean, obviously, you can mention names if you want to, but has there been?
I'd love to put a few people out there.
You can, put them on blast. Screw them.
You know, it's tough. I mean, for instance, so a few weeks I had been working with a client for like a year, right? They had went to an open house over the weekend. They just bumped in, and I always tell my clients, listen, when you go to an open house, it's fine. Don't freak out. But the first thing you need to do is mention, I have a realtor. This is my agent. So they stumbled into this open house, and the realtor made them feel like if they had an agent, they were going to lose this house. So they had to choose between how much do they love me or buying this house. And of course, their love for me dwindled in the wind. And I lost this deal that I was working with them for over a year. And I said, what kind of integrity do you have as an agent? I would never in my life make someone feel like you're a terrible person because you have an agent, you have to use me, or you can't get the house.
Did you have any idea what they said to them?
Something along the lines of that. He said, basically, we were able to get the accepted offer because we didn't have an agent. And I just said, well, and Forest Hills is known for that. I mean, without putting the agent on blast, Forest Hills Gardens in Queens is very primarily known for their listing agents to not want to work with other realtors, which to me, I feel like you're doing the seller a disservice because you're cutting them off from so many offers just because you want to save the commission.
Yeah. And, and we both know the real reason why they have an advantage for having or for not having their own agent is so they can keep their commission, right? So,
right,
so
exactly.
can you talk about that a little bit, especially for like people potentially looking to buy or even to sell? Like, why is that so important, right? Not just like making sure that the agent doesn't like steer them, but like having an agent that is not selfish and saying like, I'll go with the buyer that will pay me more versus going with a buyer that has an agent that represents them, makes the transaction go more smooth despite the seller netting the same amount.
Right, and truth be told, so when it comes to being a seller, I tell my sellers all the time, I know the first thing that you want to do is save on the commission. And we'll go over things. Okay, you might have an agent that's willing to do it for 3%, but are they taking cell phone photos? Are they doing marketing for you? Are they doing open houses? I know many agents that'll close a deal for 3%. They're taking listing photos on their phone. They don't do open houses because they're not investing their time on someone where they're not getting compensated. They only show 1 or 2 days a week. It's very, and I tell people, you're actually losing money. You're not saving money, because if I'm doing my job and I'm marketing your property to the best of my ability, that means I'm doing floor plans. It means I'm doing a video tour. It means I'm doing all these things that essentially cost money. So I can be flexible, but this is what you're losing out on. And also when it comes to paying a buyer's agent, you want to be able to afford to pay that buyer's agent because you have no idea what kind of buyers they have. I could have gotten you an offer that might be over asking price, might have better terms, but if I, as a selling agent, am excluding all buyer's agents, I'm actually netting you less money because the pool for offers is lower.
Yeah.
If only people listen to me all the time.
When you say it like that, it sounds like common sense. And I mean, I think there must be data to back it up, that it makes the transaction go by smoother. The seller probably nets much, much more.
Oh, of course, because you have someone on the other end that is speaking to the buyer and explaining to them, maybe the area of the property, maybe going over the comparables with them and essentially getting them to offer what they feel is a great offer. If a buyer doesn't have an agent, first of all, you then are not having any control of that deal. The buyer has to deal with the attorney. The buyer's confused. That, when you're buying a house for the first time, it can be overwhelming if you don't have an agent. I prefer having a second advocate representing the buyer in, sometimes that's me, but you need to have two professionals on each side of the transaction. And I tell everyone, when you're going, let's say you were having heart surgery, would you pick the cheapest doctor or do you want the best doctor? It's the same thing. Real estate is the biggest financial decision that you're going to make. So having a great mortgage broker, having a great realtor and attorney, those are all key things. It's not the time to be cheap there or work with someone who can't even negotiate their own commission. You think they're going to negotiate the best house price for you?
It's a great freaking point.
I don't think so. If you can't even negotiate your own pay, how can you negotiate best for your clients?
You can't.
You can't. It's a no-brainer.
It's a skill that they don't have.
Right. Absolutely. So that, that's the way I always explain things to people and really try to get them to understand that we're here to help them. And I feel like they understand it at the end of the day. I've had so many people tell me, you're so different from other realtors. You pick up my phone call. You make me feel like I'm the only client you're working with, even if you have 50 other people that you're talking to. And it's that one-on-one experience that's really important because, we have to talk to clients sometimes just giving them an update. I don't want someone stalking me for an update. I want to call you, let you know what's going on. Right.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. So you have everything more or less down pat, right? Seems
that way, but I wish it was.
I'm feeling the passion come through, and obviously there's got to be frustration with other people in the business, right?
Yeah.
So what's your kind of opinion, or how do you see the next couple years going? Because we've had a lot of people join on the mortgage side.
Right.
A lot of new people come into the business, especially because there's a lot of easy loans to do because of refinances, which are, dropping every day as rates go up.
Right.
And I'm sure, have you seen a lot of new agents join the business that just think it's kind of easy? Or what have you seen on your side? Or even that you've worked with, that you've experienced a bad experience with new agents that don't have the correct mentoring?
Well, I'm glad you bring up correct mentoring because it's so important. So I'm actually on the leadership committee for my office the last 2 years. And what we're trying to do is I love bringing in a lot of new agents and really making sure that they're trained properly, or even an agent that's been in the business a long time. I think it's important to go over ethics and really be trained properly and know how to represent the industry as a whole, because you may have a homeowner that runs into one bad agent and now there's a stigma. Their family thinks realtors are terrible. Their family thinks mortgage brokers are horrible. It's that one bad experience that can just, you know how it is, even on your end. Something bad happens and it's that stigma that comes out. So I do feel like there are a lot of new agents out there, and I don't think that companies are training them properly. Like, I know specifically with Keller Williams in my office, when a new agent comes in, we like to put them in a coaching program, which will teach them what documents they need, how to search for new business, what paperwork you need to put together for working with a buyer or an agent. With a lot of these other companies, since you're sort of an independent contractor, they bring you on and that's it. You need to figure it out on your own. As a matter of fact, the first office that I went to, I had worked with a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, but I didn't have the training. I picked up this listing literally 2 weeks after I got my license. I probably broke every law because I had no idea what documents I needed to sign.
Yeah.
But it was just, I didn't have the training. And when I came to Keller Williams, it was just eye-opening as to all the things that you really need. And I think even being in the industry for 20, 30 years, with things rapidly changing, you need to kind of stay on top of all the changes. The mortgage industry changes, the rates are changing, the way that we market to people, even just doing a podcast. Years ago, you weren't doing podcasts, there was no social media, you were a realtor, probably with like a book and writing things down, and now it's different. So you have to advance with the industry, and that's why the training has to continue.
And I think that's where, regarding like video, social media marketing, that's where like COVID kind of changed the game, because no one had a choice, that you had no way of meeting other people in person or going to any events. So everyone went heavy on social media, and I think it's fantastic. But going back to Danielle, what year did you start in the business?
So I've been with Keller Williams for about 4 to 5 years now. So I came in it's been about maybe 6 or 7 years now.
So you got plenty of experience, and you're
learning
highly
every
respected, top producing, on the committee. You've got all the accolades, right? So you've seen some things. So what are like the major changes you've seen in the industry, like compared to when you got in and like now, basically?
Well, so obviously when COVID started, we noticed a huge, I felt like, for me anyway, business was so busy. There was like a 2-month period where people, were really having a hard time. Everybody was scared. And then it came to, oh my God, I need to own a house. Yeah. You had so many people that were losing their jobs. I think a lot of people said, now is the time. I don't know if I'm going to have a house in a few months. My landlord is losing the house. I don't want to be a tenant and not control the roof over my head. I had so many people rushing and trying to purchase. I think these last 2 years have taught us that everything is so unexpected and you just don't know what's going to happen. I feel like business has gotten so busy, and it's been pretty consistent. We've been talking about the rate change now, and a lot of people ask me, do you feel like it's going to go down? I feel like maybe not as many people might qualify with the rate jump, but there's still going to be a handful of people that want to get their foot in the door before the rates skyrocket. So I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I think at the end of the day, if people want to buy a house, they're going to buy a house, right? So like the consumer that tries to control everything is the one that's going to stop looking. Right, because they want the perfect rate, they want the prices at the lowest point, and they want to be in the perfect place in their life. And unfortunately, life doesn't just like really work that way.
Unfortunately, not. You can't plan everything.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing, but I'm seeing there's definitely a very small slowdown for that reason, because the rates, it's data. We've seen mortgage applications drop nationwide because of the rate drop, but it's because of a lack of refinances. But I've also seen a lot of people that were on the fence about refinancing jump in at the last minute.
Get serious.
Right? So and it's unfortunate, because when I initially spoke to them, we could have done 2.6 for you, 2.7. Now they're getting 3.3, 3.6. And it's
big difference.
And you don't know where they're going to go either. So, a lot of housing experts are predicting that rates are actually going to go down again because we're due for a little recession. Now, the market also tends to do the opposite of what the experts say, so they could be completely off. But yeah, if rates go back down, they're thinking maybe back into like the low 2s, potentially the high 1s, but it's something very peculiar will have to happen. Maybe something to do with the whole Russian-Ukraine debacle that's going on.
A lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot that affects rates, so it's really, really hard to say. But going back to my point is, because me as a purchase loan officer, that's what I consider myself as. My passion is helping people buy homes and acquire more real estate. Right. So as long as you're in the game of acquiring real estate, not trying to time the market, and Chris, forgive me because you've heard me say this a million times, but it's not necessarily about, timing the market. It's about your time in the market.
Right.
You can hear him chuckling. And it's very, very true because, look, we know that over time rates go up and down, up and down.
Yeah,
and
it's like anything.
Yeah, and same thing with home prices.
Right.
Appreciation, up and down, but overall it goes up.
Right.
So you're better off getting into a home as long as you're like financially ready to do so, or you're a place in your life. I'm not saying that everyone, I don't honestly believe that home ownership is right for everyone.
Right.
Do I think it's financially the smarter decision to do from that perspective? Yes, but for some people, they don't want to bother with taking care of a home, and they don't want to build a home. They just want to chill somewhere and have someone else take care of everything.
Right.
So it's different for everyone, but I think, again, if you're thinking about buying a home in general, buying sooner rather than later makes sense.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely. I kind of say the same thing even when clients call me and they're like, I heard the rates are going up. I'm like, well, we talked about this a few months ago, and I kept telling you, don't wait. The last 2 years has taught us time is of the essence. Don't wait. You just don't know what's going to happen.
And you're super tempted to just be like, I told you so.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it like that.
Danielle.
Exactly. Yeah. But, you're here to give advice. I feel like, sometimes people ask me all the time, what's your profession? And it's like, I want to say I'm a realtor, but at the end of the day, I'm a financial advisor. I'm here to go over your options with real estate, explain different things to you, kind of, go over stuff. And then, of course, your end comes in with the financial part of it. It's important. And I say utilize us to help you to acquire more real estate, tell us what your goals are, what you want to accomplish, and it's our job to figure out how to get you there, essentially.
Yeah. And I'd like to think we do a fine job of that.
I like to think so too. Yeah. I do. It's something that I take pride in, and I think having a huge referral business, which is what I have, speaks for that, because anybody can do marketing, anybody can throw signs all over the place, but when you have people coming to you, kind of like Bentley, you don't see Bentley signs all over the place, you don't see Rolls Royce everywhere, but you know they're doing a magnitude of business, and that's the way I like to think about my business. You might not see my face on everything because I'm very selective with who I work with, but at the same time, my business speaks for itself, and I'm sure you're sort of that same way.
Yeah, I do a mix, right? Because I feel that you don't have to, but in order to grow rather, and if you want to grow exponentially, do heavy marketing as well as the referral game. But the referral game is better from many, many aspects, right? It's not just like you got the side that it's more fulfilling, it's a massive compliment when someone refers you personally, and it's also just easier from a business standpoint. It's easier to work with a warm referral than chasing someone down for business.
Right.
So saying that, you're basically, would you say 100% referral?
100%, but now I am switching. I am doing more marketing. I have changed my signs around. I am putting my face on things. I love that mug. I hope I'm not giving this back, by the way. I'm stealing this. But I am putting my face on more things. I am speaking at events. I'm here on the podcast. I want to let people know that I'm there. It's not just my, sort of circle of referrals. I'm here to help everyone.
Yeah, and touching on that, Danielle, because I feel like like we see this on, you know, Facebook, Instagram all the time where, and I see it from loan officers and realtors as well. It's like, you know, my cousin didn't use me to buy their home and I hate them now and yada yada. And in my opinion, this is going to sound a little bit blunt, but that is your fault. If you were unable to demonstrate that you're excellent at what you do, like, people shouldn't just use you because you're related.
No.
Right? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what if you're terrible? Right? So, like, regardless of you being related to the person or not, you still have to build trust. You still have to demonstrate that you're an expert. And going back to what you were saying is that a lot of people, like, let's say you meet someone at a dinner party and you casually mention, I'm in real estate, and then a year later they close on a house. But you haven't talked to that person since that dinner party, and you just mentioned it like lightly in conversation, and you didn't follow up with them. It's like, so using things like, so for me, I use social media kind of the way a lot of people use email drip campaigns.
Right.
So for me, social media is really just a tool to stay top of mind so people reach out to me.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily like doing any selling through social media or doing any like consulting. If someone like sends me a DM on Instagram, I'll reply. If they have like some basic questions, I'll reply with a voice note. I'm all about voice note. Like,
I know you are. Yes. I have to get better at that. I'm always, and it's easier too, especially when you're texting or something, and it makes life a lot easier. I love the voice notes.
Much easier. And it's more personal too, you know, than texting, and you can't like sense tone and things like that. I mean, of course you can use emoji. I'm not a huge emoji user, are you?
Sometimes. It depends on the situation. You know, I try to keep it light, especially with my clients. They know I joke around with them. I like send smiley faces or hearts, and you know, I want to be professional, but sometimes it's nice to feel like we're having a nice conversation. Like, you don't want to feel like you need to sit behind a desk with a suit and the clients are, they want to know you're a human. You know, okay, I'm buying a house, you're my realtor, but we're still people at the end of the day. So I do like to joke around with them a lot, and they like it. We are not
robots. We are humans.
I think people just take it sometimes, you know, it has to be that balance. You know, it is professional. You do stick with the integrity, but we want to have fun with it too. I always say, when you work with me, we're laughing along the way, we're crying along the way, we're having fun. And they do tell me at the end, you delivered everything that you said. It was something so fun. And those are memories to cherish. I like taking pictures at the closing for them to document and remember. It shouldn't be a stressful time. I hate when I hear, I closed on a house, I worked with this realtor, it was so stressful, I was very upset, and I'm like, oh my God, you worked with the wrong person. Where was I?
So on that subject, right, because, and going back to the New York thing, I find that particularly in New York real estate can be extremely stressful, right? It's an attorney state, there are tons of people involved. So Danielle, for your potential audience, your potential customers, and this is like full unleash bragging if you want to do it. You have permission to brag. Is like, what do you feel or what do you know that you do that like separates you and reduces stress, anxiety? Because I personally find that that's key, and it's always something like when I do a buyer consult, I always tell them like, look, straight up, buying real estate in New York can be stressful. I'm not saying that it's going to be. I'm going to take as much stress out of the transaction that I can as humanly possible. But with that said, things happen. So, but with that said, go ahead, sorry.
So, I mean, I pretty much, so I like to kind of be in control of all sides of the deal. Like, I actually just closed on something. It was a co-op. I wasn't the listing agent, but I had to jump in and kind of call the seller's attorney. I had to call the management company of the co-op. I had to find out all these things. So I was not only keeping with the buyer's side because that was my client, I was also reaching out to the selling side. And
so you're doing the listing agent's job for them, basically?
Sometimes, in a way, I feel like I kind of do everybody's job. Sometimes it's me, you know, jumping in for one of the attorneys, or, you know, I mean, and truth be told, I like to, you know, sometimes deliver, you know, when it comes to my clients, you know, I've referred you deals, you know, sometimes they'll ask me, listen, who do you work with that's an attorney? And I'll mention, you know, I have a great friend, Crystal Young. She's a good friend of mine.
Shout out to Crystal Young.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really just knowing who over the years in the industry is someone that's kind of going to represent you. Because at the same time, I need to know that the person I'm giving them as a lender or as an attorney or even as an inspector is going to represent me accordingly. So when you have all the moving parts that work in sync, it is less stressful. And sometimes you may need to do something that the attorney should be doing. You may need to do something the seller's attorney or buyer's agent should be doing. But it comes to you wanting to get the transaction closed. Is this my job? Not so much, but I will do it, and that alleviates the stress on you. I was still able to get the deal closed, and as a matter of fact, the selling agent, the seller's attorney, wrote me an email, and she said this deal wouldn't have closed if it wasn't for you. Harassing the management agent, being on top of her, pushing things to get done.
I can attest to that, and
I'm terrible. He's trying to say I'm a pain. Is that what you're saying?
I mean this as a compliment that you are. Well, because look, you do it with kindness. You don't do it in like an annoying way. So it's like if you follow up, you're not following up to be annoying. You're not following up because I don't know, something went wrong, and then you're just trying to see what's going on for the sake of what's going on. It's like, it's very, very specific reasons. But to be fair, Danielle, that is like one of the reasons. It is the reason, you just said it yourself, that the deal's closed, because you are on top of your deals. You know exactly what is going on at all times. Yeah. So like, we'll speak during a transaction and you'll like recite to me the very last thing that happened that we spoke about like 4 days ago.
Right.
And it's like holy, like Danielle's memory, like what the, how do you remember this? Like,
I don't know half the time.
It's impressive, but like, well, the reason that you remember is quite simple. It's because you care, right? If you didn't care, you wouldn't remember and you wouldn't keep the transactions moving. But again, revisiting like what you said before about having kind of the team, right? Because if I feel that, you and me, for instance, or you and I should say, we can do an amazing job. We can do our job, as perfect as humanly possible. But if they run into an attorney that like doesn't really do real estate, is recommended by a family member, and not to say that those attorneys are bad and they cannot do a good job, but we know more often than not they don't do the best job.
They do a lot of litigation. It's not the same. You can't argue over a $20 outlet that needs to be fixed or something. It's not a litigation situation. I've had that a lot lately.
Really?
Oh my God, sometimes these litigation attorneys are so tough. So, I try to guide people. If they ask me, listen, I have a great attorney, but you can't push people either.
Of course.
And then sometimes when they see that it's stressful and they're like, I really should hire a different attorney. I'm like, I told you to call Crystal from the beginning. It makes everybody's job difficult. An attorney, because essentially once you take over the mortgage aspect, okay, Ben's taking over. When I'm in the middle of, negotiating on the house, I'm in it. But when it comes time to that contract signing, you need that attorney to be your advocate. Are they getting the contract sent out? What's going on with the deposit? So that little window there is very important, because sometimes that can cost you to lose the house. Yep. If it took a week to get a contract out or it's not signed, they're going with someone else. And that is nothing you or I can control. It's that attorney.
Yep. Happens all the time.
All the time.
Happens all the time. And then it's because you don't have a deal until the contract is fully executed.
Correct.
Comes down to that. But most people think, especially like first-time home buyers that don't know the game, right? They're like, oh, my offer's accepted. I'm like, okay, congratulations. I'm happy for you. I'm going to be happy with you. But did you both sign the contract? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay. So rush. And these are the cases where like they don't have an agent that's really taking control. That's where we jump in and we're like, okay, push and get it done.
Of course.
Because otherwise they lose out. And even like this is an absolutely insane one, Danielle, but I had this was almost this time last year. I had a client that was like an impeccably clean loan, very, very easy to deal with. And she signed a contract and her attorney did not tell her when her closing date was on the contract. So this lady, who again was like impeccable, we CTC'd it in, 3 weeks, something like that. And she was just absolutely livid because the seller was not ready to close for another 3 months.
3 months.
And not
Oh my
only that,
God.
the contract said on or about 3 months from now, so which we know pushes it to 4 months, right? So she's just, and what ended up happening, she fired her attorney halfway through the transaction because she just didn't want to close with her. It's like, you don't deserve to get paid. You put me through all this. Because what also I find happens, Danielle, and I'm sure you see this as well, is that when you're like, especially when offers are done in person, I don't know how much you see that, but like when offers are done in person or even on the phone and the seller's like, yeah, we can close in 30 days, we have somewhere to go to.
Right.
The contract often says the opposite, that it's going to be 60 days, 90 days, on or about whatever.
Right.
And then you have this client, this buyer that thought that they were getting into their brand new home in 30 days and they got to wait 4 months.
Yeah.
It's an extreme example, but it's not that uncommon.
It's not. And that goes back to kind of having a great realtor and kind of, because that's something I always find out. Listen, my client's looking to move immediately, or I have a client right now that's selling her current home in Brooklyn and we're looking to purchase something. So as I'm calling people and putting in offers, I'm letting them know, hey, we need to close on this house first. We need to do a post-possession on this house, meaning she needs to close on that house and get to stay there for a few days before purchasing the new one. Sometimes you need to be able to catch something the attorney didn't catch, and that's something that happens all the time. I find me always having to mention things that maybe the attorney didn't see. It's tough.
Yeah.
And we don't get paid for their job either, so it's just,
No, it's
unfortunate.
It makes or breaks. I'm trying to be political with my words, but it sucks. It ruins transactions straight up. If I'm not being political, like the attorneys that don't know what they're doing literally ruins it. At the same token, realtors that don't know what they're doing, loan officers that don't know what they're doing.
It's everywhere,
it's all
anywhere.
sides of the business. Not to
Right.
pick on attorneys because we can talk smack because there are no attorneys here. But again, it's anyone in the transaction that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Going back to even what you said before, it's like having mentoring if you're new in the business.
It's very
Right.
important. I think more so than anything, and I feel like it's highly underrated. A lot of companies don't think like you need to train this agent. You're sending them out into the world. They're working on someone's biggest asset, a huge financial decision, and they just got their license last week, and here you go.
Well,
you can't do that.
Do you feel, Danielle, that part of the reason for that is because being a real estate agent or a realtor has been glorified through media and all these like fun shows, and it just makes, like, do you think because the media makes it look so easy for you to do your job that a lot of people just jump in thinking, hey, I'm going to make an easy extra $5,000 a month or $2,000, $10,000, whatever the number is?
I kind of think so. Sometimes you watch a lot of these shows and I watch them all the time and it's like they show all the glory and the fashion and the fame and this, but they don't show you what it's like to get from A to Z on every single transaction. I may have had one that was super simple and I didn't cry and I didn't get upset. And it's not that the client is getting upset because they may have a perfectly simple process, but it's us on the back end with the stress and trying to get things done. And actually tomorrow I'm speaking at an event purposely for things like that, explaining to agents when you're starting your business, this is what to expect. You're not getting your license and like jumping into $1 million the next day.
Give them a reality check, but with a plan.
Right. There are steps you need to follow. There are things you need to learn. How do I get my business? Where do I get my business from? When I first started, nobody told me. I got my real estate license and I'm like, all right, great. And I got lucky. I told you I picked up my first listing like 2 days. As a matter of fact, it was a friend from my son's school. They knew I was getting my license and they said, I'm waiting to put the house on the market. You're going to sell this house. And they did. They waited. But it's not always like that. My first few years, it was a lot of making contacts and, speaking to people.
Well, hold on, Danielle. Before you go further, I think that there's a little bit of magic in what you just said, because I think a lot of people that are new in the business don't have the confidence to go out and get business because they have very little experience.
Right.
But this friend of yours, despite the fact that they knew that you were just getting your license, felt extremely comfortable to give you their own business. Can you
Yeah.
Any idea like as to why that was? Did you just wow them? Did you did they know that you are a hard worker? What was it that made them trust you despite not even being licensed yet? That's impressive.
You know what's funny? I mean, so our kids were in the same class, and, you know, we used to talk at the playground, and they knew I was such a go-getter, and I guess they knew I was somebody they felt comfortable to trust and that I was going to get the job done. And, you know, they always told me, you're going to be a top agent. I am telling you, I could see you doing so much business. And to this day, they always comment on my pictures, or sometimes I'll get a random text from them saying, like, I told you, I saw it, I knew it was going to happen. I'm always very passionate about what I do, and nothing I ever do is not 100%. So I guess they knew no matter what it took, I was going to get the job done, and I actually got them to close on it very, very quickly, and then they moved to Long Island.
So to kind of double down on that is that I feel that a lot of people focus on sales skills and, like, particularly like objections and rebuttals, and like that wasn't even part of what you just described. Like what basically happened is that you built a relationship with someone and you demonstrated through your own character. You weren't trying to do it. It's just you were just being yourself.
Natural.
That if you're naturally a hardworking person, people notice, and people want to see you win. Right, and this person still wants to see you when they're still commenting, still encouraging. Like you can create these raving fans, right? And this person obviously is.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, people do, and it's to the contrary, because everyone's always like, oh, nobody wants. Yes, people want to see you do good. People want to cheer you on from the sideline, and I feel like. Well, most people, there's not all, but, you know, even through social media, you have people that see you, you know, closing transactions and being this, you know, plethora of information, and they're happy. They want to know these things, and people will support you. You know, I think it's important to be genuine, and, you know, yes, you want to get your name out there, and, you know, you want to sell homes, but it's you that people are buying into. It's not what you do. Essentially, it's you as a person, the character you have. That speaks a lot. You know, there's so many agents out there. You have to show, why am I different than these 10 people? And the only way to do that is to be yourself.
Yeah. As long as yourself is a good, hardworking person.
Well, yes, if you're a terrible person, then
you're not
I don't think you want to,
you know. And as you shouldn't, because you don't deserve it. So
yeah.
And I think that goes back to kind of like survival of the fittest in this business, which we're going to see a lot of over the next couple years. For those of you that are new, get ready to rumble. Get ready, we're coming. Danielle, another thing I did want to touch on that you actually mentioned in the very beginning, aside from that referral that you just talked about, how did you go about getting business in your first couple years and getting to where you are now, which is a top producing agent?
So I feel like in my first few years, it was definitely the connections. I did a lot of rentals as well, and I stayed in touch with all of those people. It was never me just following up with the $1 million clients. It was that $1,500 apartment that I rented to you 5 years ago that I still call to this day. And she still tells it to me all the time. I cannot believe you still call me. And it's not just, oh, happy Valentine's Day, Merry Christmas. I will text, I swear, I will text all my clients on a Friday. Have a great weekend. You know, if it was a horrible weather week all week and Friday is sunny, I'll send them like a picture of a little sun, you know, have a great weekend. And they know, and it's kind of funny because my office laughs. When people don't hear from me, they're like, are you alive? Did something happen? And that's what it is. It's about considering every single client as a huge client, whether it's $1,400, $100,000. You know, and putting yourself out there. When I would go to the nail salon, I would talk to people in there, hand out my card. If I'm at the airport, if I'm on the soccer field with my son, you're always a walking advertisement of yourself. And you need to not throw it in people's faces, but, you know, sometimes you're having a conversation and people are talking about, you know, the weather or what they did this week. And, you know, I mean, it should come up what you do for a living. You
usually
hand out your cards casually, and I'll hand out my cards, or people will follow me on social media, and you stay in contact with them. Like you said, if you meet someone at a party and you go, oh yeah, I'm a realtor, and you never speak to them again. But when you're out there and you're making that conversation, it doesn't have to be about business. Even through COVID, I would call people, how are you? Do you need help? Do you need anything? Do you need food? What's going on? When you come from a place of contribution and people know that you care, eventually they'll ask you, so what's going on in the market? How's real estate through COVID? What's happening? And it becomes that normalized conversation rather than you just like poking them for business all the time. you know?
So you're basically following up in a genuine way
All
with
the
care.
time.
And I think part of the magic is that you're doing it without the agenda of looking for business.
Pretty much, yeah. I
Like-
mean, you hope that there's going to be business, but
Of course, we'd be lying if we said we don't want to.
You care about the person.
But you're not calling and saying,
No.
hey, I hope everything's good. How's your grandma? Can you send me any referrals? You're not doing that.
No.
Yeah, because they know that you're in the business.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't like... so I personally... I very, very rarely ask people for business because unless that person doesn't know that I'm in the mortgage business.
Right.
If they don't know, then I'm like, hey, I'm in the mortgage business, let's do business. But otherwise, you're just demonstrating through your character, staying top of mind in ways that are not irritating to
Right.
get more business from them.
Yeah.
I did, Danielle, want to ask you, this is going to sound like a funny thing because everything that you described sounds incredible and obviously it works,
Thank you.
but it also sounds freaking exhausting. Right?
You're not kidding.
Yeah. So do you go through, you must go through some type of burnout. How do you recharge? Do you have it scheduled? Does it just happen naturally? There's got to be a point where you're like, oh, I need some time to myself. This is exhausting.
I go through that a lot during the day, and being on the leadership committee the last 2 years at my office, we've kind of been having these powwows and they're all like, listen, don't you drop off your laundry? Don't you have a maid? Don't you and there are things that I feel like I'm trying to implement. I'm looking for an assistant now and possibly we'll be bringing on a buyer's agent and sort of expanding to a team and things like that because it's hard not to get burned out. I mean, now you're just always on the go, and then you have mom life at home, which is a whole other job. You're cooking and cleaning and doing all these things. So I try to stay task oriented. Like you said, I have a great memory. Sometimes I can't remember and Siri helps my life half the time. I'm like, Siri, add this appointment to my calendar.
Amazing.
But you do burn out. And I've been trying to get better at, I'm one of these realtors and, some people say it's a terrible thing, but you could call me at 7:00 at night and ask me a question and I will answer the phone. Some people say, no, you have to cut it off at 5:00. But I think that's what also...
I don't think so. I think
it makes
7 o'clock is fine.
Because people know if they need something, if they're having a thought, if they're freaking out about something, they can call me. But I'm also been getting a little better at respecting my time. If I'm at the amusement park with my son, I'm trying to put my phone in the locker instead of submitting an offer on the lazy river like I've done before.
Wow.
It's but it's just exactly. And he was like, I'm gonna kill you. But it's really respecting your time and even like a doctor, at a certain time, unless it's an emergency and you're calling that hotline, they're not gonna answer the phone. So when it's past a certain time, I say, listen, it's family time, phone is off, or maybe setting a day for myself where I'm off during that time frame and then I'll do some work at night. I'm one of these crazy realtors that like to stay on top of the market. And I feel for me and my clients, it works. I know if something came up an hour ago, I will send it to you. This was just listed 15 minutes ago. And they're like, don't you sleep? I'm like, you might get an email from me at 12:00 at night, but it helps buyers to get accepted offers. It helps you to beat all the traffic sometimes.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of burning out, which is why I'm definitely to the point where I need to have an assistant come on and really just help me with certain things, whether it's paperwork, whether it's reaching out to clients. And, I remember to do a lot of things and I do have that personalization, but as you grow, your brand needs to grow and it's time for us. Yeah.
So, yes, I can say this, especially as, myself, I've grown my team quite a bit over the past 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And what it's done as well, and Danielle, I'm sure that you're already aware of this, but even if the people that you're hiring aren't really helping you generate business, they're taking stuff off of your plate so you can either go out and get more business, more income producing activities, as they say, or you could use that time to just chill. There's nothing wrong with that either, right? So you don't have to work 24/7 because this way you can rest, you can recover and come back 50 times as hard or 10 times as hard, whatever, the following day. So it's true. It will improve work-life balance dramatically. And then, of course, they need work-life balance too, but you come up with a system.
Yes, that's what I'm working on now is the systems and what tasks I'm expecting my assistant to do. Listen, when we get a new listing, this is what you need to get from the seller. This is what you need from the buyer. So I'm trying to implement those systems before bringing someone on so that this way I can have them very task oriented. And like you said, you have time for more income producing activities, but I promise to get better at taking some time for myself. I'm known to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. It's kind of my personality, but family is a top priority, so I've been really working on balancing that out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the intricate details of your personal life, but I know just based on your social, you don't like ignore your family time, right?
No.
You're heavily involved. So I'm saying that because I don't want people to get the wrong idea.
No,
obviously.
You're
very
know.
Involved.
I'm there for school drop off. I never miss a basketball game. I never miss a soccer game. I cook dinner every night. I do laundry. Truth be told, sometimes, my office laughs. I'm like, looking up listings. I'm on the phone with a client as I'm like sitting like this, dragging the laundry in. I'm dropping my son off at school. I'm running to the supermarket. That's another way to burn out because I am doing 75 things at once. I never let home life fall to the side and my business either. So it's like I'm doing a variety of things at once to keep everything moving. And that's where the assistant will come in. And sometimes I am dropping my laundry off or, things like that. You have to make it work. Being a parent is a priority for me anyway. And I always said I could, be like this top agent making, $100 million a year and this and that. But what is it going to cost me? Yeah. What is it that I'm going to be giving up? So you have to find a way to be as successful as you want, deliver the service your clients deserve while giving your family the you that they deserve, and that's balance every day.
It's not easy.
It is not easy. Yeah. That's why I've been making an effort
challenge.
Lately to record my shenanigans. I told you I'm eating sushi in the parking lot, and people don't know what it takes, and it's funny, you have these memes of like this mountain, and it's like people never saw you down here. They see you here. They don't know what it takes in between every day, and that's absolutely the truth.
And they want to see it. So let's talk about social then a little bit more. So what are you doing currently, right? Or what have you been doing in the past, and what are you trying to do moving forward to like put yourself out there more? Because we all know like social is where the game's at.
Yeah, social is huge. So, I'm trying to go to more events, even if it's broker open houses, network with other agents. And, I'm here today on the podcast. I told you I'm speaking at the event tomorrow. I'm talking to other agents. My office, we've been doing like a lot of wind downs with agents from other offices, just mingling with people and, having cocktails or, we have a ping pong night coming up. And we're really big on networking with not just agents, with lenders, with attorneys. I mean, we're all in the same industry. So it's important that we network. And little by little, you kind of build that circle of the great, the top producing, and everyone else sometimes trickles away. Sometimes people will come into the circle, but you want to surround yourself with the like-minded people and continue to build the industry as a whole. And that's something I've been passionate about is getting these amazing people, bringing them together and delivering this service that is just so out of this world that clients are like, oh my God, I never knew selling or buying my house was gonna be like this. And that's what you wanna deliver every time.
And you do.
I try. I mean, my clients say that I do. And some, listen, I'm not perfect, but I really find such a passion for helping them and really making a difference. And I find that you need to surround yourself with like-minded people to do that.
Because we're all going to come across each other at one stage in the business anyway.
And even other agents. I'm like, why do you want to be rude to another agent?
Yeah.
You may come to my listing one day. You want me to give you access. You want me to treat you as a professional, so treat me the same. And I find so many times I run into people. Actually, yesterday, my client called me about a house and I saw the listing agent. I closed a deal with her 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're the agent on this. It helps to be nice to people. Why would you, but listen, not every agent is like that. They don't think about repeat business. They don't think about the karma aspect of it. And, I find that that's not delivering service to our clients. So
would you say, Danielle, that it gives you an advantage? I think that it does, but I'd like to hear your opinion, obviously. That, like, for instance, if that exact example, right, that you were the buyer's agent, now it switches around 3 years later and you're the listing agent, are you more willing to cooperate with that person if you've had a good relationship with them, you know how they conduct themselves, and therefore, because they're more more professional, you know that your seller is going to have a more pleasant transaction. Would you say that that's true, or it's like a small factor?
Oh, absolutely. I've even had people tell me, oh, well, listen, we're going to work with your client just because it's you. You know, I mean, still respecting their client, we're still...
As long as the offer makes sense. Right. If it's like some low ball, then no.
No, we're still making sure, you know, buyer and seller are getting, you know, the best deal and, you know, the numbers work. But yes, who you are makes a difference.
Let's say that you have the same exact offer from, you know, a random big bank and some agent that you have no idea who they are, or they were extremely rude to you a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They're going to not be on the same level as that person that you already have that great relationship
Absolutely.
with.
I just had a client that just lost a deal. You know, it was one of the banks that didn't do the paperwork correctly, and we were in contract for 3 months. They kept telling me an appraisal was ordered. Come to find out, they didn't even do the research. I had asked them ahead of time, listen, did you go over the client's paperwork? Did everything work out? Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, without saying names, we just lost the deal. My clients are super upset.
Of course.
And, you know, it unfortunately just happens sometimes. It's one of these things that go back to knowing who the right people are to put in place. And you will sometimes run into people like that. And if I ever see his name on something right away, I'm going to be like, don't ever use that guy. Don't ever use that agent. Don't ever... So it is true. Yeah. I say all the time on my Instagram, everybody knows who you work with matters. It will matter every single time.
Yeah. Reputation is everything. And even though there are so many of us in the business, most of us have come across each other at one point or another. And we remember, like, you remember how they made you feel last time you spoke to them.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to do business with them again, it's so key. Like you said, you have to think long term. You have to think about, you know, business common. I don't mean that in like a hippie sense. It's like what goes around does come around, and in the way that you conduct yourself every day stays with you, and people associate that with you, obviously,
of
right?
Course, so that's how you and I met. You did such a great deal on that. I remember I called you. I'm like, Ben, I need you to save this deal. And we closed on it. We closed on it. You know, so you remember these things and you know who you can count on. And I'm always sending you friends, family. You helped my best friend with her refinance. And
thank you.
You're always going to refer somebody, thank you, that you know can get the job done. So reputation is important.
Reputation matters.
Yes, very much so.
All right, so let's talk about what is next for you. What are your plans? We don't have to give away all the special sauce, right? If you got some secrets, you want to keep them in the chamber. I get it. I respect it. Can't give away everything. But what's the plan for you next? What are you trying to implement to grow your business? I mean, we talked about growing the team.
Right.
Any specific plans there? What's like the idea for you?
So yeah, definitely growing the team. Like I said, I want to bring on an assistant. I want to bring in a buyer's agent. I want to kind of, expand and, maybe grow into other markets, since I'm not specifically licensed in Connecticut, although I do work with a colleague there closely that I can help, maybe bringing on somebody who, specifically works in that area, and just kind of grow as a whole. I'm advancing and doing in a lot of marketing. I've been, kind of working on creating more content. I've been, speaking to somebody about enhancing, a YouTube channel and really becoming a source of information. I'd like to do more buyer seminars and also seminars for sellers, explaining to them what to look for. It is not okay to use your cell phone to take photos of a listing. I like to come from a place of education, and I feel like when you educate consumers and people out there and they know what to expect for the process, they know what is not right. And when they come across that agent who's not ethical or not doing the best of their ability to represent the client, they'll spot it right away. We need to be a source of information, and I want to start interviewing different people in the industry and just kind of keep promoting things out there to help. And essentially you grow as a brand. I just finished rebranding, and I had created my logo and changed my signs.
Cool. I gotta check it out.
I've been working on little things here and there, and every day you just look to grow and how can you enhance your brand to deliver better service to your clients. That has to be number one at the end of the day.
And for you, like I'm getting a sense that it's value, it's education.
Value proposition is always huge. That's another reason I joined the leadership committee at the office for the second year, and just helping to grow the office. What are we doing for the agents in the office? How are we creating different events for the industry? And that's where we started doing more wind downs, more connecting with other companies, and helping the agents to kind of take off that stigma. Oh, you're with this company, I can't speak to you. No, we can all speak to each other. And going over different things, how we're creating and bringing in new agents. Our office actually just started this new program where we're bringing in agents and actually giving them, like a ticket or however they call it to get their real estate license for free.
Cool.
So that's a whole nother segment. But, besides just growing my business specifically, keeping up with the industry and really making it something that we can be proud of is huge. I don't want to be part of an industry that people are like, oh my God, you want to be proud of it, and you want to keep contributing like you're doing, for your side of it, giving people the information, doing this great podcast, and always being a source of information.
Yeah, and there is something that I think is very key, which goes with everything that you said. And I find that this is a common characteristic with top producers, is that they have a more collaborative mindset when it comes to working with other people, or the we always hear, the buzzword is the abundance mindset, right? Which is, even though it's a buzzword, it's completely true, right? And we find that, the lower producers, I hate saying lower, but people that don't produce as much, basically because they are more desperate for the business, that they
hold on to everything.
They're trying to, but that is holding them back,
of course,
at the same time. And I think, for me, because I was definitely in that stage at one point in my career, and once I kind of let go of that,
I think we all were in the beginning. You don't know what to expect, you don't know how it is, but then you learn. Networking is everything. And I see friends in other companies that are not with me, and I love on them. I support them. I'm like, oh my God, you just got this award. Oh, congratulations. It doesn't mean we need to be enemies. You have to love everybody and be collaborative. And even events I speak at, they're sometimes not with my company, and I'll speak at the events or do different things. It's that collaboration. Even in the city, these $1 million listings, they're not listed by one person. It's collaborative things. You have to these days. It's important.
That's the game.
That's it.
Oh, if you want to be successful, that is.
Yes.
So Danielle, any final thoughts for our audience, or any final words of wisdom, things that you'd like them to know that we haven't touched on? I think we touched on a lot, but
we have touched on a lot. You've kind of always been great at getting the information out, and
extracting.
I'm looking forward to creating more things and more content for everyone, and just really looking forward to helping as many people as I can. So, if anyone has any questions, reaching out to us and just kind of keeping this going.
And with that said, where can people find you? How can people contact you?
So they can contact me via email. My Instagram is Danielle Efres Real Estate. I don't know if I'm supposed to provide my phone number.
Yeah, might as well throw it on.
Okay, well, my phone number for real estate purposes, that is 646-468-2169. And my Instagram is pretty easy, Danielle Efres Real Estate. You can look me up online, on Zillow, and I'm here to help any day, anytime.
Danielle's everywhere. Hit her up. She's fantastic. Danielle, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so
much for having me. I appreciate it. Fantastic. Looking forward to more ventures together.
Let's crush.
Yeah, that's it. Let's do it.